Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios, it's time for Women in Motion. Brought to you by WBEC West. Join forces, succeed together. Now, here's your host.
Lee Kantor here, another episode of Women in Motion, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, Webeck West. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. Today on Women in Motion, we have Mellissa Tong with DuckPunk Productions. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us about DuckPunk Productions. How are you serving folks?
Well, DuckPunk is an award-winning storytelling agency and content production company. We have three different kinds of customers. We service corporations, mid-size, as well as small business owners. And we create authentic brand storylines that are relevant and relatable to your target audience across all delivery mediums, including TV commercials, broadcasts, social media content, websites, verbal pitching, a presentation deck, a written statement. I mean, anything that will serve, your audience. And that's and we've been around for 24 years.
Now, is there a story behind the name?
Yeah, absolutely. So I get asked that a lot. So the story behind the name is back in 2000, I was trying to find a name for the company. And I was at this lake feeding a bunch of ducks with breadcrumbs. And there came this duck with a mohawk, just like my logo. And after 45 minutes, my bag was getting empty and I was throwing the last breadcrumbs into the lake. And this mohawk duck would still charge over to get to the food. So I kept looking at him thinking, wow, you're one tiny duck. All the other ducks were done. They were I'm full. I'm just hanging out. And this duck, he would not give up. He kept trying to eat. So I thought, wow, how can you be eating so much? You're just one tiny duck. How much more can you eat? So that night I went home, I just couldn't shake that image off my head. So I started playing with the word punk duck, punk rock, and mohawk. And 6 weeks later, I decided to name my company DuckPunk, but that's half of the story. So at the time, my justification was because my last name is Tong. So by alphabetical order, I'm always on the last or second last page. So I thought if I have a company name, I don't want to be at the very end. So instead of calling it, Punk Duck, I flipped it and call it DuckPunk. But that's really half of the story. Years later, as a minority woman working in advertising entertainment, I cannot tell you how many hurdles I have to jump through. And every time I fall, I have to jump through a hurdle. I have to remind myself to be like him and never give up. So that's my DuckPunk story.
There you go. Very inspirational. And on brand. That sounds on brand too.
Absolutely.
Very congruent messaging and congruent, intention. So, is that part of kind of the secret to storytelling, to be authentic like that and to have the ability to really get clarity and simplicity when it comes to sharing a message?
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot tell you. I mean, we do TV commercials, right? So oftentimes, TV commercials, I adore TV commercials, don't get me wrong, but not every single TV commercial comes from a real authentic story, right? Some do, some don't. And when it comes, and construct from an authentic idea, that spot will really, it will just become so much more popular because at the end of the day, right, we gravitate towards real authentic stories. So that's why, my brand is about crafting authentic brand storylines that are relevant and relatable. You can make up stories, there's nothing wrong with it. But in order to really capture people's attention and get people's, buy into your brand and be able to connect with people on an emotional level, nothing beats authentic.
Now, when you're working with your clients, how do you kind of bubble up those kind of stories that'll resonate with an audience? Do you have some way of onboarding them or some questions you ask to help to get to the heart of what they're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I started my company, I actually began my career as a TV newscaster. And at the time, besides anchoring the news, they also put me in charge of a daily 5-minute human interest segment where I could cover anything but hot news. So in those 4 years, I interviewed thousands of people from all walks of life and crafted over 1,200 on-air stories. So now when I do storytelling, I bring all that interviewing skills to my clients, and I have a set of questions that I ask them in order to really find out, what their brand is about, who they are, what makes them different, and why people should buy from them versus, their competitors. So I dig deep, sometimes we go way back, to people's childhood in order to really find out why they wanted to do their business. Why did they start their business?
Now, do you find that today's audience is a little more sophisticated and maybe a little more cynical when it comes to stories, that they are kind of looking to gravitate to the truth, to something that's authentic, and they're getting a little tired of things that are too slick and too, perfect?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think, with such a crowded marketplace, right? People definitely, gravitate toward more, on authentic storytelling because, when a brand is trying too hard, when it's like, it's like you have to be transparent these days because with social media and everything, it's very, very easy to find out what you're about. If you say one thing and then on your website, you say something else, or you say one thing and then on your written materials, you say something else, it's just very, very easy to spot. So obviously, if you want to be on brand, you have to stay true to your voice. And you have to stay true to your brand, because otherwise it's not going to resonate.
Now, when you're working with clients, do you tend to work with B2C, B2B, or are you kind of industry agnostic?
No, we do all kinds of industries, but we are pretty much, I would say 95% B2B. From time to time, we may have a client, that is B2C. So I'll give you an example. So last year we did have a B2C client, and she's a very seasoned CFO. And she came to me because she said, okay, I'm looking to jump ship, and I've been getting a ton of, interviews, but I wasn't getting callbacks. So I don't know what I'm doing, wrong, but I want to, in order to, land the job, I have to be able to get more callbacks. So we started working together, and I helped her reframe the way she asked, she answered her questions. And eventually she started getting callbacks, and she landed, her $250,000 job. So she's very happy. So once in a while we'll get a client like that, but mostly with B2B.
And what problem are they coming to you with? Are they just coming to you with, hey, we want to do a commercial, or we want to do some video, or is it more kind of a strategic problem of like we have to increase sales, or we want to increase brand awareness?
It's more of a strategy for sure, because like I said, we're not limited to just doing videos anymore. So before COVID, we were primarily doing storytelling on video, but now we have opened it up. So now you don't have to do a store. You don't have to do it on a video. You can, like I said, we can help you do your pitch. We can help you do a presentation deck. We can help you, tell your story on your capability statement. I mean, now we're across different mediums. So usually people recognize that, our sales is getting a little stagnant, or we really want to grow, but how do we get there? Yeah. So it's more of a strategy thing when they come to us and they really want to, utilize the power of storytelling and use storytelling to really drive sales and get the results that they're looking for.
And storytelling kind of can go across channels, right? Like you probably help them craft a message for, that classic elevator pitch all the way to a message if they were keynoting speech.
Yeah, absolutely. We have helped, quite a number of people, basically put a storytelling spin on the keynote speeches so they can, so they can be a little bit more engaging. Because sometimes, when you talk, it's very easy. If you're not aware of doing it in a storytelling format, it's very easy to get into the mode of, I'm just giving you facts, right? I'm just giving you data. I'm giving you facts. But without the stories, our brains are not wired to just capture data and facts. Our brain eventually will tune out. So that's why, getting the facts out, getting the data out in a storytelling format will help people absorb, the information so much better and easier.
Is there any kind of do's and don'ts you can share with our audience when it comes to storytelling? Are there things you should do and things you shouldn't do?
I guess in storytelling, my number one thing is always, be authentic, because nothing beats real. So I mean, I've heard some crazy stories over the years, and even if the story is crazy, but as long as it's real, then it's fine because it's real, right? You can't argue that. So I would say the number one thing is be authentic. And then I would say the number two thing is really make it relevant for your audience. I have actually seen, very, very established, speakers speaking on stage, and then they were doing okay with the stories, but the stories don't really have any relevance to the target audience. So the audience was sitting there thinking, okay, why we listen to this? So really make sure that, whatever story you're using and telling, it is relevant and relatable to your target audience, because otherwise it's not going to have any effect. And then I think the third piece is really, I mean, obviously, in the B2B world, you're using storytelling to drive sales and get more customers. So really, really spend time on finding, what sets you apart. And I think this is a very, very common challenge for a lot of businesses. I mean, sometimes I work with businesses who are over 30 years old, and they still can't really articulate what sets them apart. So I think this is the key point. A differentiator should be something that you can claim and nobody else can claim. So I think, if you have those three things lined up, it will definitely help you, get further with your story.
And something that I find, at least it doesn't resonate with me, is when they're telling a story, but it gets too salesy. Like all of a sudden it became a sales pitch and it's not a story anymore. Like, how do you kind of help your client not kind of go into buy my stuff mode, when you're trying to really share a story that's going to articulate that point of differentiation or what makes you special, but you don't want it to be like a sales pitch. Like, it's kind of art and science.
It is definitely an art and science. So I would say if you come from a place of serving, like, okay, how am I serving my clients with my service or products? Then it will automatically not become salesy. But if you're trying to sell something, then immediately your brain will go to the sales mode, and then you will become a salesman. So I think you just have to kind of maybe set your intention and really figure out, okay, am I here to sell or am I here to serve? I think if you get cleared on serving versus selling, then you should be able to stay away from, the salesy mode.
And I would think that this is where having an expert like you come in and listen and share your best practices, you can help a client kind of avoid those kind of big missteps.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a lot of, sales and communication trainings, and that's where you kind of learn how to differentiate and then practice so that you don't go into the sales mode too often.
Now, why was it important for you and your firm to become part of the WeBank West community? What were you hoping to get out of it?
I love WeBank. I have been certified as a minority business owner for years, since 2005. And over the years, people have asked me, "Oh, how come you don't get certified as a woman owned?" And my excuse was, "Oh, I don't need both. One is enough." And it's true, I don't really need both. But at the same time, I was totally missing out until, several years ago, I finally, did my WeBank certification, and I cannot tell you, it's a world of difference for me. I love, having a close circle of women-owned, of women business owners, because we share the same struggles, right? Regardless of how big or how small business is, we share the same struggle. We have to hustle. We have to get it together. We have to, make sales. We have to, do all these things that, any business owners have to do. So just having that camaraderie and having a host group of women that I can, call upon, when I have a challenge, when I want to get a simple opinion about certain things, and it's been great. And I really like sort of the supportive environment, the camaraderie that I get from being part of the whole, WeBank network. So I love WeBank. And everywhere I go, I keep asking people, "Hey, have you certified as a woman owned?"
Now, for you, who is that ideal client that you're looking to have a conversation with next? Like, who is the ideal client for DuckPunk Productions?
So we sort of have three tracks. So we continue to shoot TV commercials and branded content, for our corporate clients like Nissan, Verizon, Wells Fargo. And then for the mid-sized businesses, we function as the fractional CMO. But something new that we just started to do is over the years, people have asked me, so I do a lot of workshops. I've done it for, WeBank National, Nabo National, LA Mayor's Office, SoCal Gas, San Diego Gas and Electric. So over the years, people ask me, how come you don't do any workshops on your own? And I did it a few times at the very beginning, but I stopped doing it because, I didn't want to spend too much energy trying to get, people to sign up and do all that. But people were saying, okay, you should have something that is self-paced so that we can, learn on our own. You don't have to worry about, who's showing up. So I finally listened. And now, next month, we are launching a course called Story Selling. And it is mastering the art of storytelling to attract more customers. And we have three parts. Part one is crafting an impactful elevator pitch to close more sales. Part two is crafting a buzzworthy brand story to stand out from your competitors. And part three is how to be a rock star on camera and tell your story on video. So I believe this is, a very comprehensive course for people who want to further their storytelling skills, who want to get more customers, and who want to get very clear on the differentiators so they can use it to attract more customers and win more business.
So if somebody wanted to learn more about the firm or have a more substantive conversation with you or learn about that course, what is the website?
The website is very easy to find. Is duckpunk.net. So it's DuckPunk.net.
Well, Mellissa, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Sure.
All right, this is Lee Kantor. We'll see y'all next time on Women in Motion.